Today is the 19th day of February 2015, and we are continuing our series on Savitri with Dr. Alok Pandey. Welcome, Alok. We are still in Book 1, Canto 4, The Secret Knowledge, and I think we could stay there for years.
Yes, there is no end to the secret knowledge.
And we are on page 60, all here, where each thing seems its lonely self.
Yes. It's a wonderful part now. Sri Aurobindo is leading us step by step into the secret, the secret most, if we may use the word, the most secret aspects of this knowledge. So we have been told that there is within us depths and heights which we are unaware of. And we are told how we can get inside, how these inner truths reveal themselves to us through an act of grace, what kind of experiences there are, the inward turn that is required, the intuitive heart that is required, and the quietening of the mind and the vital that is needed. And then he reveals glimpses of these hidden truths. And one of them is the yoga of the earth. She is toiling across, and whatever is happening there is not just a mechanical accident, but there is a deep purpose. Then we are told about the two ends of the master plan, of a single plan, and particularly the gods and how they act upon creation, upon man. And then, because the action of the gods is very, very impersonal, and many times for the limited human consciousness, it's very difficult to bear. And so we are also given this truth that, however, there is a secret divine aid. So we are not just rotating upon a globe where we are pulled by strings as puppets by the gods, but there is something greater. The Supreme Himself has chosen to dwell amidst the tumults of the sense, and He guides us, leads us, carries us, helps us, protects us, even when we are not aware. And then finally it crowned with the hour of God, that even if the darkness is deepest and densest, perhaps the dawn is just next door, round the corner. Then He takes us to a still deeper truth, and that's what we are going to read. All here where each thing seems its lonely self are figures of the soul, transcendent one. Now, here there is a little bit of, one has to touch upon some metaphysical aspects of how this comes about. Described beautifully in Savitri. That to start with, there is only one. And for the sake of creation, He brings out of Himself His own force, the Shakti. And then this Shakti goes about creating forms, names, qualities. So she creates forms and names and does them with quality. And each of this quality represents something of the infinite. So she is like the one who actually authors the great cosmic poem because she knows the heart of the writer. So she is the one who picks up, like a writer writing a poem. So all that is there within him, she is the power that brings it out and writes this great cosmic poem, step by step.
And this is interesting because I spoke with Father Gergen, who gave his talks in South Carolina, and he said there is no corresponding concept of the mother in the West.
Yeah, or perhaps it has been forgotten and ignored. I would rather put it like that, because I trust that the mystics glimpsed. But what happens with, like even in India, the advantage has been there is no one particular line of Indian thought, so it has survived. But there are lines of thought where again the concept of mother is not there. If you take the pure Vedantic as it is understood today, they don't speak about mother at all. Whereas if you see the Vedas, the whole hymns to Agni refer to nothing else but the mother, because Agni is none else but the conscious force that is gone into existence. So it's because of a certain line of thought which is there all over the world that this aspect has not come. And the mother builds these countless forms and names to present them to the divine and say, you come and inhabit and he extends himself in each of them. So there is one subject. Now we often use this subject and object. So there is only one subject, and that is the divine. And he objectivizes himself and becomes many. So out of one subject, they become many objects. So where each thing. And this one subject then extends himself into all these and becomes many subjects. So that's how from one, and the power that brings everything out of the one and continues to do so is the power and presence of the mother. And Sri Aurobindo, again, referring to the mother here, he says, an unseen presence molds the oblivious clay, a playmate in the mighty mother's game. One came upon the dubious whirling globe to hide from her pursuit in force and form. So it is their play. Ultimately, at the end of it, she builds a grain of sand, she builds empires and civilizations. And she offers to him that, would you like to play? Would you like to inhabit? He inhabits, but finds them not perfect. And so she demolishes, builds another. So this is the play. Of course, for a limited human consciousness, this sounds like a cruel joke because, we suffer and struggle. But if we really learn to look at it like a play, we get free of the struggle and suffering because we realize that what we see as the demolition of a form or the pulling down of a civilization is not an end, but a new beginning. So this is where our ignorance conceals from us a deeper truth. And then because it is He out of whom this infinity has come, even she has to take the material from none else but the Supreme. So that is why we have these wonderful lines, very, very liberating truth. And, a truth which only the strong in soul can really receive and live by. On the next page, we have, He is the maker and the world He made. So, this is now going to the ultimate Vedanta where there is a total reconciliation between God and world. Because out of Him, it's just like a poem or a great epic. At one level, it is separate from and different from the author. At another level, it is basically an extension of the author. So just as we can say that Savitri is separate from Sri Aurobindo, we can also say it is the extension of Sri Aurobindo's consciousness. So we can say that the world is separate in one sense, in one perception, different from the divine, the creator. But in another level, it's an extension of the creator. Because what is inside him, he objectivizes. So we have, these lines, He is the maker and the world He made. Yes. He is the vision and He is the seer. He is Himself the actor and the act. He is Himself the knower and the known. He is Himself the dreamer and the dream.
What a beautiful line.
Beautiful line. And then, we have been, the other day we were talking about, Shiva and the night on which, his marriage takes place. It's a very interesting story of Shiva and his two consorts. So one consort is Sati, who is the power of nature in ignorance. And his other consort is Parvati, who is the power of nature in its peak, the Shakti, who knows that she is the Shakti. Whereas as Sati, she does not know that she is the Shakti. And the same divine being, he can be away and aloof from her, or he can enter into the play and unite with her. So, through a story, they have tried to reveal this great profound truth. And so we have these wonderful lines which follow. There are two who are one and play in many worlds. So depending on the world, in the world of darkness, they play as, the dark counterpart, like the Kali. And as she ascends, the force also becomes more luminous, more beautiful, that she who is Kali in the dark worlds becomes the fair one, Gauri, in the bright worlds. And the Tripur Sundari, the most beautiful one. So, it's the same play, the same being. And he is the only subject. So he experiences himself in a diminished way in the dark worlds. And he experiences himself as the Lord of creation in the higher worlds. In one of the Upanishads, there is a very beautiful line Dwa Suparna. It's about the two birds. So one who is eating the fruit and the other who is watching and enjoying. So, we have the same thing here. There are two who are one and play in many worlds. In knowledge and ignorance, they have spoken and met. So, even in ignorance, it is the divine who wears a diminished shape and plays in that level. Just like, you may play a game at a topmost level. Let's say a very good player who is playing for Real Madrid or Manchester United. If he has to play with his own child, he will play the game at that level. He cannot now play at that level, and the child may well mistake that my father perhaps doesn't know so much, except he has to take it as an article of faith. So the same way in knowledge and ignorance they have spoken and met, and light and darkness are their eyes interchange. Our pleasure and pain are their wrestle and embrace. So this is their play between soul and nature. Our deeds, our hopes are intimate to their tale. They are married secretly in our thought and life. So this is the mystic marriage, the marriage of nature with her Lord. The universe is an endless masquerade, for nothing here is utterly what it seems. It is a dream fact, vision of a truth, which, but for the dream, would not be wholly true.
Beautiful lines.
Beautiful line. It is the dream of the divine which is trying to realize itself in material world. So we should not discard dreams as something. When someone asked the mother who is building Aurovilles, he said the Supreme Lord. And she said it is the dream of the Lord. And then someone asked mother, is it real? Will it happen? She says the dream of the Lord are often much more concrete and real, and it will manifest itself. So, but for the dream, this would not be true. Things shape in the dream of the Lord. The mother picks up those dreams, and given the material here, she tries to build them. Now, material is not yet perfect, so the dream cannot translate itself fully. It's like a musician who has very good music in his heart, but when he begins to play, the limitation of the instruments come into the play.
And Sri Aurobindo hyphenates dream fact.
Yes.
Making it one word.
Very clear. So this is Sri Aurobindo's Vedanta, that the world is not unreal. It is real because it has come out of the real. But what we experience is a distorted appearance because of the ignorance. And then, this relation between the soul and nature is in three poises. To start with, when he enters into whatever she creates, he becomes limited by the form. It's like a king who is put in a prison. So he's a king, but he's only a king for the sake of name. He can't, dictate terms that, look, I am a king. He will be laughed at, mocked at, because he's in a prison. So he chooses to do that so that he can liberate not only himself, but recreate this. So he chooses and accepts. But he accepts coming to a prison. So even the bondage, which is much talked about in spiritual parlance, is chosen. There is no real bondage. It is something which the soul chooses and enters into it so that it can work on the fields of nature. It is something very new in what Sri Aurobindo brings out. It's not there in entire spiritual thought. At least it is lost to the modern mind. That bondage is also an act of the divine, and deliberate, consciously chosen act. It's like a king going into the prison so that he can liberate all those who are there suffering with him. Like Sri Aurobindo going into the prison. Yes. So this stage when he is simply goes into the prison of nature, or rather the small molds, the small names, forms, qualities, even in the worm there is God.
Confines himself.
Yes, confines himself. So this also is described beautifully in the next page. As one too great for him, he worships her. He adores her as his regent of desire. Imagine a king in a prison. He is hungry. So he can't just clap and call his minister and say, serve me whatever. He has to ask the jailer and whatever he serves, he has to take it. So, he adores her as his regent of desire. He yields to her as the mover of his will. He burns the incense of his nights and days, offering his life a splendor of sacrifice. This truth Sri Aurobindo has brought out beautifully in his drama Vasavdatta, the three poises of the soul and nature, which unfortunately very often is interpreted as a romantic play. Because it's very much in line with Indian thought that, even what we regard as a romantic play is a symbol of a deeper truth. So the deeper truth is the three poises. First, the soul appears like a slave to nature. Next, it becomes a witness. It wonders, who is she? What is this? Is it a trap? How can I come out? So it's a witness. And finally, it becomes the master, the Lord of nature. And nature herself wants this to happen. So on next page we have, this is the knot that ties together these stars. But for him there would be no play. But for her, nothing would remain. It will get, back. So
what did Mother say? With him,
without him,
I exist not.
And without me,
He is unmanifest.
So this is the knot that ties the star. And it's so liberating. Just this thought is so liberating. That within us this play is going on. Now to imagine that, itself, to live with that idea, itself can be very liberating. The two who are one are the secret of all power. So in a certain line of Indian thought, there is a tendency to separate the two, to condemn nature, to take it that it is something which only deceives. But there is another line of thought which has been forgotten, which Sri Aurobindo brings out now, that no, they are one. You cannot escape nature. She may allow you to escape by her grace, but you cannot imagine that by your own effort, because your effort also is nothing else but nature. The effort of will is nature. The effort of thought is nature. So, she allows, she helps you.
Even nirvana.
Even nirvana. It's only when she agrees.
Yes.
There is a nice little story in, again, Legends of Shiva, where when Shiva gets married, then, some sages cannot understand that how can he who is transcendent, complete in himself, why does he need to get married? Now, this story works like a symbol at many levels, but at its highest level. So, he says, you are complete, aren't you? So, Shiva says, yes. Then why do you need to marry? He says, to make the completeness more complete. Now, it's a mystic truth. So, after the whole conversation has gone on, the two are sitting together, Shiva and Parvati, and everybody takes a parikrama around them. And this story is very interesting because it reminds us of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. When mother came, how people had this resistance.
Yes.
So everybody goes around happily except one sage who cannot accept the mother in Shiva's life. So he says, I will go only around you. So then Shiva, as he is wanting to go around her, Shiva shows that the two are one. So this sage is also very smart. He becomes like a bumblebee and goes around only Shiva's, head. As if, look, I'm not going to accept you. It's enough. I have gone around Shiva and it means that I have gone around you. So number of times he tries it. Then his Shakti, she says, okay, I see that you don't want nature at all. So I withdraw myself from you. And suddenly he collapses, becomes dust. And he says, my God, I am disembodied, I can do nothing. I cannot even think. And then, she brings him back and says, so this is the power of nature. Without her help, you cannot even find liberation. Her grace has to be there because she and he are one. They have together decided to play this game, and there is a purpose in this game. So, in the same page, a witness and student of her joy and dole, a partner in her evil and her good. They have chosen to play the game
That's
together.
interesting. Yes.
He has consented to her passionate ways. He is driven by her sweet and dreadful force. His sanctioning name initials all her works. Whatever the mother did had the complete sanction of Sri Aurobindo. So, and many people couldn't understand. They wanted to create a division and distinction. Till Sri Aurobindo had to say that, look, if you ask only from me, you will get just about 25%. But if you turn to the mother, you get everything. And then they asked, but isn't there something like Sri Aurobindo's force? He said, yes, the mother is Sri Aurobindo's force. So making it very clear. So, this deep truth he has brought out. And then, on page 65, that this play is moving. This play is not a meaningless play. Even in the bondage, there is a purpose why nature binds. It's like being in kindergarten, you can't take a leap. You are put under restrictions and limitations because that is how you have to evolve. So, page 65, although she drives him on her fancy's roads, because there is a wisdom in nature, at play with him as with her child or slave, to freedom and the eternal's mastery and immortality stand above the world, she moves her seeming puppet of an hour. So you see, it's such a liberating truth. Who is doing sadhana? It is the divine who is doing sadhana. It is the divine who is walking the path. It is the divine who is the source and the goal of the journey.
And so often Mother said,
Yeah.
you do my work,
Yes,
do your
I'll
sadhana."
do your work. Because he is the one alone who does. This is a deep truth.
Yes.
So even that which seems to be a puppet of nature in ignorance, rolling in the mud and mire of ugliness, even through that, she is preparing him for the great play. So, this gives hope to everyone. Nobody is condemned. Nobody can ever dwell forever in eternal darkness, because she will not allow. She will keep on, because this is her will, to let every soul reach that point where it becomes the supreme and master of nature, because that's the original truth. And this goes on till the same page. For him she was made, lives only for his use. But conquering her, then is he most her slave.
Look at that juxtaposition.
Still he needs the nature. You cannot do away with it. Because the moment you manifest, express, even when you have conquered, you depend on her for everything. So conquering her, she is most. He is her dependent. All his means are hers. So the Purusha can dream. But to realize these dreams in earthly life, to work them out, you need the Shakti. Because they are one. Nothing without her he can. She rules him still. At last he wakes to a memory of self. He sees within the face of deity. The Godhead breaks out through the human mold. Her highest heights she unmasks and is his mate. Till then, he is a plaything in her game. So you see, there are several levels at which she plays. When the Purusha, when she plays the game at a very, like we have levels, level 1, level 2, level 3 in computer games. So you cross a level and the challenge increases. So, one wonders why is there no rest and ease? No, because you have to go on till you become a master of the play. And then you discover that, oh, she was playing with a purpose. There was a wisdom in everything. And if we could live with its faith, life would be wonderful.
Yes. elsewhere he says there is no end.
Yes,
Or none
there is
can
no
yet
end
be
because
seen.
they are both infinite.
Yes.
He is infinite and she is his infinite force. And therefore he kind of, summarizes it on next page, these marvelous lines, page 66. The master of existence lurks in us and plays at hide and seek with his own force. So sometimes when he is hidden, nature goes into a state of anguish, longing, anger. And it's a deep psychological truth. Very often people think these are only high things of philosophy. No, even in everyday life, all our pain, all our anger, all our anguish is essentially because nature in us is looking for her Lord. And that's why we look for perfection here, there, in that person, this situation, that circumstance. But actually we are looking for the Lord. As Mother said that, to want an individual person to love you who is perfect is to actually want the divine 24 hours by your side. Only he can do. But this is the process. So he plays at hide and seek. So why does he hide? So that she can once again aspire. And then, as a result of her aspiration, he gives that touch. Then again the game is lifted up. So it's so beautiful. In nature's instrument, loiters secret God. Everywhere, in every activity of nature. Even in the very instruments, brain, heart, even there God is present.
And what a humorous word, loiters.
Yeah, loiters, that's right. It's a very humorous word and a wonderful word.
Yes.
I mean, it shows the, only a master poet can pick up a most, raw material and blend it with something beautiful and make it beautiful. See, loiters is a word which is,
no
not
loitering. No loitering.
It's not a word which you commonly use for something very high and beautiful. And by putting it here, he brings that word to its highest possibility.
Yes.
I don't think one can ever use the word loiters in such a wonderful way.
No.
In nature's instrument, loiters, secret God. You just round the corner, it's there, interwoven in it. The immanent lives in man as in his house. He has made the universe his pastimes field, a vast gymnasium of his works of might. So there is one playground which we have here, built by the divine Shakti herself. And there is a larger playground which also she has built. And this is so that we may become ready to play that game. And that's the whole universe is the playground of the divine. All knowing, he accepts our darkened state. Divine wears shapes of animal or man. And see, from a practical point of view, how it opens a new line of thought. Why compassion towards all creatures? If life is merely a play of the ego, then really speaking, kindness and compassion have no role in it. It should be survival and a hard survival. But if there is, the thing for which we have maximum feeling is for ourselves. But if it is the same self which is extending into all, that is the basis of brotherhood. And brotherhood not only for humanity, but for every creature. We often talk about humanity is one. But here, creation is one. Every particle of dust is connected to the undying source. So everything is worth worshipping. River and sea and sun and stars and even clay. Out of clay and stone you can carve a image of God and worship it, and God will be manifest. So this is a tremendous truth. Yes. Animals, everything, because the divine dwells in it. Eternal, he ascends to fate and time. Immortal, now look at this word again, immortal, dallies with mortality. Amazing. And then he describes once again that how the all-knowing, the all-blissful, he becomes all this. The all-blissful, the all-conscious ventured into ignorance. The all-blissful bore to be insensible. Incarnate in a world of strife and pain, He puts on joy and sorrow like a robe. And then all the three poises of the divine. How the absolute, the perfect, the alone, he is beyond everything, and yet out of his silence he has called out his force. The absolute, the perfect, the alone, has called out of the silence his mute force. So this is the transcendent aspect of the divine. Then the universal aspect. This Sri Aurobindo said this is the symbol of the cross.
Yes.
The Father, Son and the Holy Spirit. So Father is the transcendent. And the Son. It implies that there is a motherhood, incidentally. But as you said, that it has been
Mary,
forgotten.
yes.
It's forgotten. Saint Mary. Yeah, of course, Mary is none else but the divine
Mother of God.
Yeah, Mother of God. So then there is the Son, the creation, the psychic being, whichever way you look at it. And then there is the Spirit, the universal self. So next comes the universal aspect. The absolute, the perfect, the alone, has entered with his silence into space. He has fashioned these countless persons of oneself. He has built 1,000,000 figures of his power. He lives in all who lived in his vast alone. So he extends into each and every character, just as Ramayana is independent, or the Mahabharata is independent. But it is also the expression of the consciousness of Vyasa. And Vyasa extends something of himself, not only in Arjuna, but also in Duryodhana, in Karna, in Bhima, in Krishna. Everything is something of himself extending into all these characters. So he extends himself. Space is himself, and time is only he. And then at the individual level, so we have the transcendent, the universal, and the individual, the absolute, the perfect, the immune. And see, now he uses the word immune.
Yes.
Whatever it may become or do, the soul always deep inside remains untouched. And that's why when somebody said to Mother, Mother, how do we deal with wicked souls? And Mother said, there is no soul that is wicked. And he says, it shows the depravity of your own thought. There is no wicked soul. Soul is always beautiful. It is immune. It's like an actor who comes and plays a role. Because he plays the role of a villain, doesn't mean that the actor is bad. He may in another film play the role of a hero, who knows? And even if he were to play no role, he is what he is. And that is regardless of the role he plays. So it's immune. See that word.
Immune.
One who is in us as our secret self, our mask of imperfection as is human. Nature has chosen for this role because it will serve a certain purpose in the great play. That's how one, with that vision, it's hard for man to live with that vision. Somebody asked, did Hitler also have a part in the cosmic vision? He said, yes, of course. And this is there in evening talks. So they asked, what? So what role did he play? So Sri Aurobindo said he played the role of breaking the old world order. That was also work necessary. Brutally, giant dance of Shiva toward the past.
Yes.
So he did, the whole world realigned itself in a very different way, and that process is going on. So even the Titan and the Asura who breaks the old world, so also are prompted deep inside by a plan and a wisdom which they don't know, the characters don't know. They simply play a part not knowing what they are doing. So you see, this knowledge he's taken us to a knowledge which is so vast, that a gross mind cannot hold it. It will mistake it.
True.
And unless the mind is purified, refined and chased by special grace, this knowledge can also turn to much misuse. That's why this is a secret knowledge. It's not given to everyone. He has made this tenement of flesh his own, his image in the human measure cast, that to his divine measure we might rise. Then in a figure of divinity, The Maker shall recast us and impose a plan of Godhead on the mortal's mould, lifting our finite minds to His infinite, touching the moment with eternity. So evolution goes on in ignorance to a point, and suddenly the infinite comes and picks up and touches us and transforms us. This transfiguration is earth's due to heaven. This is the yoga we had started with, yoga of the earth. And what has been promised to her, bequeathed to her, is that you are relinquishing this state. She is a goddess. But one day, on your soil, on your dust, I will recreate this. But it will be far more concrete, far more, beautiful than what exists in the heavens.
Yes.
Far more complex and harmonious. A mutual debt binds man to the Supreme. We know that we owe something to Him and everything to Him, but there is something which the Divine also owes to us. Can you imagine these lines? Mutual debt. When the soul chooses to plunge into the play, the Divine notes is in its register.
And it's so clear.
Yeah.
His nature we must put on as He put ours.
He comes to pay the debt by putting on our nature. He suffers and struggles on the cross. Looks like He has lost, and His defeat becomes the victory. So, He put on ours. We are sons of God and must be even as He. His human portion, we must grow divine. Our life is a paradox with God for key. So now we come to the end of this wonderful canto.
And one of the longest sustained imageries one could ever read about the sailor on the flow of time.
Because now he gives us that final clue that would bring all these threads together. And especially he puts, because the knowledge that he has revealed to us just a few passages before can be disorienting. It is like in a swimming pool, it's easy to understand, you have the coordinates. But in an ocean, you have no coordinates. All is nothing else but He. It's a play between he and she. So where is our individual role? Who are we? What are we doing here? What is this journey about? And that now he reveals, that the world sailor on the flow of time. So this is the sailor on the flow of time. We have to discover this truth. This is the secret knowledge. And we discover it through steps and stages. And each step and stage in our ascent becomes a type of humanity. So, in fact, in Records of Yoga, it talks about the 10 types of humanity, starting from the animal kind and asuric kind and going up to the godlike kind. Traditionally, we are told about the fourfold order. In India, this much abused system had a deep truth in it, and this truth holds true even now, all over the world. But this truth was misused and abused. It became a source of much evil, like many beautiful things have become a source of evil, from science and religion to, love, such a wonderful thing. But, they have been turned into evil because of man's littleness. But essentially there was a deep truth that the evolutionary journey of man takes place in 4 different stages, and that's described beautifully here. First, when we set out on the journey, we don't venture very far. The boat is small. You see these fishermen, they will go up to the, couple of kilometers away, catch these small fishes and come back to the shore. This is when man's life, his understanding, his consciousness is limited to the physical self. Then comes the second stage. Let's compress it into 3 stages. The second stage is the vital and the mental stage. When he ventures far, so in ship one goes and goes from one coast to another, but yet the boat is plying near the coast. It goes from one place to another, but still, it's sailing near, so that if there is a danger, it can come to the shore. The third step, when it ventures around continents. So that is the two stages of the vital evolution, the Vaishya and the Kshatriya, where the Kshatriya type goes into conquering the world. He is not happy just with, the littleness of life. So the conquerors, the emperors, people with strong urge to rule and seeking for power. This is the stage of humanity at that level. But a time comes when he has done all this journey and he wants to understand what is beyond earth. He is not happy just with earth. He has seen it. He wants to explore the Mars, the sun, the moon and the stars, the galaxies. And he wonders what they are. What are these watchfires at night? He wants to study them, understand them. And when he has done that, then he begins to turn towards the source of all things. How come they have come into being and existence? That journey is described. And we'll read just a little bit of it. Towards the end of this journey,
this is a very powerful
passage,
here. Whether to a blank port in the unseen is so powerful. He goes.
Yes.
Or armed with her fiat to discover a new mind and body in the city of God.
So those who speak about nirvana and mukti and salvation as a goal actually have not read the full script. As Sri Aurobindo says one place, they must wait for the last act of the drama of God. The play is not yet over.
Where would you like to begin?
So on page 71, at last, a greater world time's traveler must explore. So he has done all these adventures, but there is still something which eludes him. So he enters into the sublimest of all adventures, and that is the supreme adventure of the spirit. The mother used this word, the great adventure, yoga of transformation. And she says there are people who love adventure. It's for the adventurous soul. Those who want to always be safe, clinging to, small little comforts and securities, they are still at that level where, small things, fine. That's the evolutionary stage. But this is a plunge into the unknown. A step and all is sky and God. Yeah. It's a leap of faith spoken
and calling the adventure of consciousness and joy.
At last he hears a chanting on the heights, and the far speaks, and the unknown grows near. How does the far speak? It calls him, draws him. Yeah. He sees dreams of traveling all the way to distant galaxies. So something in him wants to break free into distant space and time, and ultimately beyond space and time, into another dimension of existence. And he crosses the boundaries of the unseen and passes over the edge of mortal sight to a new vision of himself and things. What is this new vision? He is a spirit in an unfinished world that knows him not and cannot know itself. The world, unfinished world. Now this is another secret. In one line or half a line he has revealed us a secret. It's an unfinished world. See, this is a secret, because great yogis or yogas, they don't talk about it. They talk as if the world is a finished thing. But see what a great truth Sri Aurobindo is revealing to us. It's an unfinished world. The surface symbol of his goalless quest takes deeper meanings to his inner view. And what is that meaning? First we play outside and we think success, failure, good and bad. But there is something else. Regardless of success and failure, victory and defeat, we are continuing to grow towards light, freedom, bliss, immortality. His is a search of darkness for the light, of mortal life for immortality. And then the last portion where you read that much later he will know whether this immortality and his search for light is going to end in a blank port, as if the very search and the seeking was meaningless, or he will embody that light, that freedom, that bliss and immortality. So it's a new vision of himself, a new body and mind. And now you see these stories, a new mind and body in the city of God. Like for instance in the Jews, the promised land. Now what is that promised land? This is the promised land. It's not a piece of land. It's the promised land is that territory. A new mind and city and body in the city of God. So you see, the city of God that we are searching for is, to start with, we have to find it inside. The kingdom of heaven must be found within, then it can be reproduced outside. But we cannot have it outside till we have found it within. So you know the city of God. And this journey thankfully goes on. And that is the logic of rebirth. This is another secret which is very interesting, that Sri Aurobindo doesn't look upon rebirth as a tribunal of justice of reward and punishment, but a constant evolutionary journey from dust to worm, plants to higher animals to man and beyond man. So there is no real retrogression. Man doesn't become a lizard again. He will become a better and better human being.
And these beautiful lines beginning with the power is in him.
Yes, and even before, just 2 lines before that, he sails through life and death and other life.
Yes.
He travels on through waking and through sleep, because it's the journey of the divine and nature. When does nature sleep? Nature doesn't sleep. The heart beats, the brain continues to work. Every organ in our body is working. It's just that our consciousness is temporarily moving away into other realms and we are not conscious of it. So this journey goes on. We grow. Every time we sleep and come out, waste is thrown out. We wake up fresh and we look upon life with renewed hope. So this journey goes on even when we are unconscious. So he travels through life and death and other life. He travels through day and through night. If power is on him from her occult source, because he is pushed by her, he cannot, even if he wants, even in rest, she will be constantly working. That ties him to his own creation's fate. And never can the mighty traveller rest, and never can the mystic void cease, till the nescient dusk is lifted from man's soul and the mounds of God have overtaken his night. She knows the goal of the journey, the master plan. And this is going to be, as Sri Aurobindo says, the supramental is in the very logic of things inevitable. It is inevitable.
Inevitable, yes.
In the very logic of things. How can evolution stop? And if we see the curve of evolution, it's going to go beyond man. In a being who will manifest all the powers in man to a much greater degree and add to it something new, which will change the sense of everything.
I think we can all agree that we're not the epitome.
Yeah.
But these lines have such music.
Such music, yes. Why don't you read, and we can end with that. We can read right up to page 73 and end with this.
A power is on him from her occult force that ties him to his own creation's fate, and never can the mighty traveller rest, and never can the mystic voyage cease, till the nescient dusk is lifted from man's soul, and the morns of God have overtaken his night. As long as nature lasts, he too is there. For this is sure, that he and she are one. Even when he sleeps, he keeps her on his breast. Whoever leaves her, he will not depart to repose without her in the unknowable.
So all this about nirvana and so much we make.
Yeah. There is a truth to know, a work to do. Her play is real, a mystery he fulfills. There is a plan in the mother's deep world whim, a purpose in her vast and random game. This ever she meant since the first dawn of life, this constant will she covered with her sport, to evoke a person in the impersonal void.
And person with a capital P.
Yes.
She wants to create the image of the divine, of he who is formless. But she wants to shape a perfect form out of him.
With the truth light, strike earth's massive roots of trance.
Truth light is the chisel through which she works to awake that.
Wake a dumb self in the inconscient depths and raise a lost power from its python sleep, that the eyes of the timeless might look out from time and the world manifest the unveiled divine. For this he left his white infinity and laid on the spirit the burden of the flesh. Godhead's seed might flower in mindless space.